Good evening, it's now 6 o'clock. I'd like to call to order the June 6th regular council meeting. Lloyd Roberts will read us an invocation.
Thank you. Bow your heads if you'd like. Good evening, Heavenly Father. You know, Father, that your Spirit is always with us. A few months ago, we decided to personally invite you, Father, to join us during our monthly meetings right here in Bel Air Beach. I'm confident that brought a smile to your face, and I pray that we do everything possible to make you happy. Our citizens, our staff, our mayor, and our council members are often tasked with making decisions for our city. And Father, you have blessed us with free will to make many of our decisions. I pray that we all remember that most of our important decisions always seem to work out best when we go to you first, Father, to pray for direction. Father, please be with our law enforcement and all our first responders and keep them safe from harm as they serve our city. Father, we come to you this evening. We ask for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us, Father, to engage in meaningful discussion and help us all to grow closer and nurture the bonds of our community. May every decision be righteous in your sight for our benefit and your glory. Fill us with your grace, Father, as we make decisions that will probably affect the citizens of our beautiful city, and continue to remind us that all that we do here this evening, all that we may accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, Father. I love you, Father. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Okay, please join me in front of the
Councilmember Frank Bankert.
Present.
Councilmember Belinda Livingstone.
Present.
Councilmember Leslie Notero.
Here.
Councilmember Lloyd Roberts.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Zabel.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jody Shirley.
Here.
City Manager Kyle Riefler.
Here.
City Attorney Randy Mora.
Present.
And Mayor Dave Gaddis was unable to attend.
Thank you, Patty. The first item on our agenda is to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Okay, Frank. Do I have a second? Second. Any further comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
That is approved as presented. Item 2 on the agenda is citizens' comments. You will have 3 minutes to present anything, any topic that's not on the agenda. If anyone would like to speak, you can do so by raising your hand and we'll call you to the podium. Do we have any citizen comments? Okay, none. Move on to item 3, and this is a presentation of the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. Law enforcement author report.
Good evening, Council. Sergeant Claudio Luna, Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. So these reports are for the month of April. There were 716 events in the month of April, with 799 units responding. The majority of the calls were direct patrols, traffic stops, house checks, contacts, traffic control, and illegally parked vehicles. There were a total of 5 arrests made in April, all misdemeanor charges, primarily revolving around minor traffic infractions. There were 140 citations or warnings issued, which 23 of them were for parking, and there were no crashes in the city in the month of April.
Does anyone have any questions?
It seemed like assaults were Were they
I'm sorry?
assaults? It seemed like we had 3.
That just falls under the domestics. Sorry.
So they were like domestic quarrels or?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you. All right, next we'll have the code enforcement author report.
Good evening, Ms. Vice Mayor, City Council members, staff, citizens. Steve Plotker for the record. In my monthly code report, again, we are still doing some investigations as far as permits and unlicensed people doing work within the city. A lot of them, we have we've been doing a lot with the cleanup around the city. Our major one, which we've been working on for about a year, is on 17th Street, where the house was sold and the home was cleaned up. And now they're just waiting for a permit to do some work in there. The other thing that we're doing is we're focusing on, since hurricane season started, with some of the docks within the city limits. If I'm not mistaken, we already got 3 letters going out and another 3 for, to get the homeowners to repair their docks. One that I'm very happy to say was on Alita. That has been going on since December 21st, so when you see my report next month, you'll see that they finally got a crew out there and they're replacing the dock. So other than that, I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, so I had down here, unpainted, worn out paint on a house. What about citizens that say have pressure-treated lumber unpainted, attached to the front of the house or on the side of the house?
Is there one in particular?
Not right now, just asking right at this point.
Well, again, we'll look at that, and I'll get with the city manager and also with Aaron to, assess that. But yeah, if the wood's dilapidated, deplorable, or whatever, then yes, we can take care of that.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? I have a question regarding the docks. How are we monitoring them? Are we using the sheriff's boat now? Or?
Yes, we are. I'm trying to go out at least once a month with them. And again, it's scheduled to change. This Sunday, I'm going to try to go out again because I'll be back out Sunday. And I'm going to go with one of the Marine units and just, again, start looking at some of these areas. Not only with the docks, but seeing if there's any other unscheduled work that's being done to some of these homes.
And this may or it may not be a question for you, but if someone pulls a dock permit, how long do they have to complete the project? And that stands for like full permit too, because those seem to be open for.
I believe it's 1 year, if I'm not mistaken. The problem that they're having is getting these companies to come in and do the work. Because there's not a lot of dock companies that people are using out here. And the issue is getting somebody to come out and give an estimate and then finding out, like we had the one on Alita, we found out they weren't even licensed in this county, so they had to get their licensing all together before they could do that. So it's from the time they pull the permit, I believe they have 1 year to get the work done.
And that's the same with the pool.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Also, just to add that it doesn't leave the homeowner with any responsibility. So if the dock's under repair, we have a storm come through, the homeowner's still responsible, the work's being done.
So we still have an issue with the wood that's kind of dangling. So, again, it could easily be removed by the homeowner.
Right.
Actually put it in, but that's why I'm asking.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Have a good evening.
Any citizens' comments, questions? Okay, thank you. All right, item 4 is the presentation of the Pinellas Suncoast Fire Rescue District.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and council members. Jeffrey Davidson, Fire Chief of Suncoast. This Thursday, June 8th, right here in Bel Air City Hall, we are hosting a hurricane and water safety expo right here, and it's going to be from 1 to 6 p.m. There will be vendors, there's going to be a life jacket giveaway, beach and boating safety information. There'll be free barbecue. There'll also be a blood drive. And I believe if you donate blood, you get a $20 gift card and a t-shirt and a wellness checkup and all kinds of things. It's going to be a good day, good informational session. And we anticipate hundreds of people to be here throughout the communities. We know it's co-sponsored with Bel Air Beach as well as Indian Rocks Beach. So that's going to be a good day. We look forward to seeing you there.
Did you say it was wonderful? from?
It's from 1 to 6 p.m.
6, okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I wanted to get the static out of this microphone, but it's so close. Can you all hear me okay?
Just don't breathe.
Use your ear. I want to explain to the council and the citizens the EMS services that I have been pursuing for your city and provide you an update on the EMS enhancement that I've requested to the county as it's budget season to add an additional EMS unit to service Bel Air Beach. Still does, even if I shut it off. I'll wait. There you go. Good job, Kyle. Yep. You want, when I shut the mic off.
You need to turn it off, Kyle, and just watch out.
I shut it off. It's the speakers, I guess. I can talk loud enough if you want to turn it.
Yeah, we'll turn it on.
So I wanted to provide for you an update on the EMS enhancement that I requested, which was to add an additional EMS unit to service Bel Air Beach, Bel Air Shore, and the northern end of Indian Rocks Beach. So since 2009, the county identified a response time gap, and that is mainly because there is a 5.6 mile gap between Fire Station 27 in Indian Rocks Beach and Fire Station 44 in Clearwater. We cannot meet the county response time, which means you are not getting the services that you deserve. The fire department has taken steps to build another fire station that the fire department is paying for with our revenues, which will be in the very northern end of Indian Rocks Beach and will be a 1.5 minute drive time to this location. It's going to solve the historical problems that we've had. The only thing I was asking the county is to fund the paramedics for the union, which is what they do. Okay? Every resident throughout the county pays .8875 mils to the county EMS fund, and that goes to fund paramedics. So the fire department is the first responders. They fund one paramedic per fire truck, and the amount of money that has been paid on this is kind of shocking. So when I looked at it, and I put in for this because there's a response time gap. The solution is adding another truck, adding another unit into a station closer to Bel Air Beach. And again, we're paying for the station. We're asking the county to pay for the personnel. That request was not even considered. It was not given to the county commissioners. It was unilaterally decided for whatever reason. I've asked 3 times, 3 weeks in a row, for an explanation as to how these members on their own came up with this decision to not put it in the council, the commission members' hands. And I'm still waiting on that response. So with the .8875 mils that every single resident pays, this area, Bel Air Beach, Bel Air Shore, and Indian Rocks Beach, is funded for 1 unit. That's Engine 27. Okay? Those same areas, Bel Air Beach, Bel Air Shore, Indian Rocks Beach, those residents in 2022 paid $2,043,506 into the EMS fund, and we were only funded $689,000 to provide those services. Okay? Not even 1/3 of what the citizens pay. And there's an identified gap that needs to be addressed. I can tell you 100%, I can show you, we've had calls and cardiac arrests where we cannot get an ambulance for 40 minutes. And that is absolutely unacceptable in anybody's book, especially mine.
Bel Air Beach alone paid, not to the fire department, to the county EMS fund. Bel Air Beach alone paid $1,360,375 last year. And you're not getting the services that you deserve. According to Pinellas County 2023 adopted annual operating capital budget, the county EMS fund has approximately $66 million in reserves and is projected to have $83.6 million in reserves in fiscal year 28. Almost 40%, 39.8% reserves, $83.6 million. And we're asking for $1 million to fund 2 paramedics for an ALS transport unit that is desperately needed for this area. Your residents are paying a county EMS tax and you're not being funded. Again, the residents of this area we're funded for 1 unit have paid in over $2 million, and we were only funded $689,000. The county EMS response time compliance is 7 minutes and 30 seconds, 90% of the time. And I can tell you from EMS to this area is only meeting it 80.61% of the time. When you come to all calls, not just EMS, it's in the 70s. I'm trying to fix that, okay? So a request was made for funding to staff a transport-capable rescue unit and 2 paramedics to provide the EMS services that are needed into your city. And this request was not moved forward by the EMS authority. It was not given to the Board of County Commissioners. I've asked 3 times for a written explanation as to why this demonstrated need was not considered, and I still have not received an answer. So I'm urging you, it's budget season, I am urging you, please contact your county administration as to why this request was not considered to be moved to the Board of County Commissioners. Your citizens deserve it. There's a gap in the system. It's been identified since 2009, however many years that is, a lot. And this is the solution. And the money's there. So why is it not happening? And this is what I'm facing, and I need your help. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them for you.
I appreciate.
Yes, I think it's off. Are we off?
We're off. He's got a microphone there.
I appreciate the email you sent out to all council. Maybe our city manager can publish that email on our website so all the citizens understand what we're up against and do their due diligence by contacting the right people.
Sir. If you don't mind, I left some of these on the table over there, but I'll bring them up. I have 6 copies for you, and it's the email addresses of the commissioners, so you don't have to look them up. But this is not, I'm passionate about this. This is what I do for a living. I've been doing this for 35 years, and this is no joke. Like, to see where we can't even get an ambulance at times. 40 minutes to a cardiac arrest. You're not surviving. You're not surviving in 10 minutes, right? So why are we here? And why are our citizens here in this area paying over $2 million and we're being funded for 1 unit? There's a county resolution, it's resolution 09-37, that says the EMS response zones, which there are 2 here, it's PS 43 and PS 44, which is Bel Air Beach and Bel Air Shores, should have an EMS unit in it. And that was not even considered. And I need your help.
So Chief, you referenced the EMS authority.
Yes.
Who is that? And what are they made up of?
EMS authority is defined by the laws of Florida that were made in 1980 and amended in 1989, which designates Pinellas County as the EMS authority, which means they have a lot of decision-making power. Now, there is a group, officially, the authority is the Board of County Commissioners, but there is a group of a few people that made this decision. there was processes that were supposed to take place. It was supposed to go to the EMS Advisory Council, which is why it's there. They're supposed to make recommendations for funding and service levels. And the decision's already made, and that meeting is not until June 23rd. So how does that happen? So when I asked for a request, I asked, please tell me how you came to these decisions. I'd like to know your decision matrix and what you used to establish that this was not worthy of being pushed forward to the decision makers. A week later, I didn't get a response. I emailed again. Oh, I'm sorry, I was busy. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And just Friday, which is the third time, 3 weeks later, just a friendly reminder, I'm waiting on a response. You know, this is not something that I take lightly. There would be a difference if a service was being paid for and you were getting it, right? And of course, there are some areas that help other areas financially. That's the way it goes, right? But you're paying for a service, you have a demonstrated need for a service. There's nowhere, anywhere else in this entire county that there's 5.6 miles between fire stations. And you come to the beaches when you're only getting here by bridge, whether it be drawbridge or big bridge or whatever, pedestrian traffic and 2-lane roads and 30 miles an hour, we're not getting anywhere fast. There's times where we can't even get to a call because Gulf Boulevard is shut down, right? If there's an accident, we need, for example, and we need other resources that they can't get there without coming a different route or sending different units. So we have a geographical need. We definitely have a geographical, we are a barrier island, right? And there is a resolution by the county that needs to be considered. So,
I have a question.
yes ma'am.
You indicated that the Board of County Commissioners, it's not really being brought in front of them. Clearly, we all contact them, they might ask about it, but who initiates that item to hit the agenda, or is recommending it be brought before them? Because it's
That
great
would
to
be-
contact them all, but if it never gets brought before them, then they don't have an opportunity to vote.
Exactly. That would be the Department of Emergency and Safety Services. And if you go on the website, you'll see exactly the people in that division, who they are.
Do you have that listed on your email?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you thought about attending the next commissioner's meeting, bringing some residents on,
Yes.
go there, raise hell?
Yes. The next, actually the budget hearings, which are not open for public comment, but those are, the dates set out are June 14th, 15th, 16th, 21, 22, and 23, but that's countywide. It hasn't been decided which one of those days is going to be for EMS, but I'm absolutely going to be there. Absolutely. And I've set meetings. I've had 3 meetings with county commissioners already, and I'm going to continue to follow up. But I'm fighting very hard for the services here for you and for your residents, because not only do they deserve it, but they're paying for it.
And just to recap, I think I would just reiterate that it's probably important to send those emails quickly, that they're meeting on budget on the 14th. It may be the day that they discuss this item, so we should send emails to everyone tomorrow. And I would encourage residents to do the same. Anyone else have questions? I'll turn to the residents. Does anyone in the audience have any questions? I'm trying to talk loud. I'll bring a megaphone. Yes, go.
Just real quick, if you could put together just like a little mini flow chart, so I'm assuming it's an online form you fill out the request, or is it simply, not simply, but is it a letter that you develop, and that is the request, and you send it to group or person A? So if you could let us know the exact people that are involved
I will.
in that flow process, again, I'd be more than happy to go talk to the person, whoever they are.
That would help. I'll actually send you the actual request, and then I did a request, but then I had supplemental information that I wanted them to consider. 2 other supplements, 2 different times of things that I was putting together to show this is a dire need. So I'll get all those things to you. You have my email address. You can contact me, and my phone number's on there as well. Anytime, you call or text me 24/7. I'll answer the phone. Okay?
All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you. If I could, you mind if I bring this up? Thank you.
Okay. On to item 5, city attorney report.
As for city attorney report, this is our first, I think our last meeting happened just after the end of session. Giving you a summary, and I've since provided you some memoranda on enactments that specifically impact you both as elected officials and as a community. And I continue to work with your city manager on how the city will adapt to some of the more recent regulatory adoptions. One bill we're still watching is Senate Bill 170. It was passed, to my knowledge, not yet signed by the governor. That was the bill that requires us to do economic impact statements of ordinances, and also changes the landscape for legal challenges. Another similar one is Senate Bill 250, which in the follow-up to Hurricane Ian, that places some land use regulations and restrictions on communities within 100 miles, and that's, as I understand it, as the crow flies from the point of impact for Hurricane Ian, which was Cape Costa. About 98% of Pinellas County, I believe, falls within that 100-mile range. There might be a slight sliver up by Tarpon, but generally speaking, that would capture this area. Not yet signed by the governor either. That bill makes it so that any land use regulations that are more restrictive may be nullified if they are adopted within 2 years of the date of Hurricane Ian's impact. And that dates back to September 28, 2022, so it will be retroactive. How what is more restrictive is not defined. Fun things we may have to either litigate or defend against, whether here or in other communities. Otherwise, your manager and I are quite literally in daily contact on the various issues and action items going on in this county, and in this community, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, council? Any questions from the citizens? Okay, thank you, Mr. Moore.
My pleasure.
Okay, next, city manager report, Rico.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Starting off with our budget, we're getting into the budget season. June 1st, the property appraiser sent the estimate of taxable values for our city. So we plug those into the budget that we've been drafting. I sent out on Friday the budget, and I realized today there's some parts of the capital projects from some pages that I need to get in there. So I was planning on
Could you just talk a little louder? No one can hear.
I was planning on having the paper copy for you today, but I need to get those supplemental pages, and then I can provide them. So I'm hoping to have it tomorrow, so that we can get some of our meetings in the next 2 weeks before the budget workshop, which is on the 19th. And yeah, so we usually have a work session on the 3rd Monday of the month. That is our budget workshop. I wanted to get a consensus of what date we want to do the work session this month. If we want to do it immediately after the workshop, or if we'd like to push it to the next Monday, which will be the 26th.
Patty, do we have an agenda started for the next workshop?
Yes,
Is it lengthy?
yes. I think is it 5 items at this
I
time?
think we're currently about 5. So the workshop's set on the 19th, so the work session.
Is proposing, so that would put us through Monday. Okay with that, or want to look into the second day of the week, that week of the 19th? I almost travel to the second day of the week. Monday to Tuesday, work for everyone? No, Tuesdays are free, okay. What about 22nd, what about Thursday? Wednesday? Leslie? Wednesday work for you? Yes, ma'am. Does that work for you, Kyle,
Yes.
21st? Patty?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
21st, on Wednesday the 21st?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll do the work session on Wednesday the 21st, the budget workshop on the 19th.
Okay, thank you. Next, Gulf Boulevard underground project. Again, we have the locations of all phase one, which is south of Causeway Boulevard. We have all the locations of the equipment figured out except for one, which is right at the corner of Gulf Boulevard and Causeway Boulevard. Duke is wanting to have everything set before we put start piping conduit through. The underground consultant from Florida is continuing to ask to get started. So we're trying to get it moving. Again, we're kind of getting held up by Duke Engineering through our progress reports. The stormwater improvement projects, the survey is underway by George Schiff and Associates. They are collecting the survey for each of the project area and streets. And just down here on 9th Avenue and 9th Street recently. As they get the street survey, they're sending it over to the engineer. So we're not waiting for it all to get done. We're getting it over and he starts design. So once he starts getting some preliminary designs together, I'd like him to kind of come in and present it to the council for questions. The marina dock renovation, we went out to bid for the replacement of the pilings and cleaning and wrapping of the ones that didn't need to be replaced. The project only got one sealed bid, and that was for $75,000. It came out much higher than expected. Currently, we have $52,000 saved for dock improvements in the marina fund. Being that it's such a chunk of expense, I'd like to bring it to the work session to discuss some other options, because it's a significant amount of money. It may be the way we end up deciding to go, or we might want to look at doing more at a later date to accumulate more money to make sense of what our vision for the marina is. So I just wanted to discuss that. We just recently got the small amount, but close to $5,000 back for our sandbagging efforts for EMA. So we got some money back, cover some of our expense. So it took a little bit, but I'm happy to say we put some 5-bar in over there at the playground, so that's looking nice and wrapped up. The law is out there, brought back to my mind that there's a boardwalk, overwalk that goes from the bayside down to a little beach area. It's getting in a just deteriorated condition. My thoughts on it are it's not even necessary to have. I would recommend removing it because I don't think it's worthwhile to replace. I don't know how anyone feels about that.
Didn't we have two boardwalks over there? There was one here and then one down this end.
There's an observation.
Observation down there.
Yeah, that's still in good condition. This one is much older. What it does is it walks out to the stand area and then it steps down, but it's,
My only concern is it important for the rental of this facility? Like, do people, if they're using, do they use it for photographs or things like that? I don't want to take away from any amenities that we have that help with our rental facility.
sure. So my gut feeling is no, just because the condition it's been in, and citizens in the comment on like deteriorating condition. So I would say no. I can check on that. I feel, you take it out, and you still have the passageway down to the beach. I can't see any other means of being there, or reasons it should be there.
Anyone have any comments about?
I haven't seen it personally, but I'll go take a look at it.
Any citizens' comments regarding the boardwalk at Bayside Park? Yes, I'd like to hear if there's any feedback.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to hear if there's any feedback from anyone, if they think, what they think about it.
It seems to me that if you don't provide a prescribed place for people to walk, they'll walk wherever, and that there might be additional erosion or a deterioration of the dunes and the mangroves if people are just left to wander anywhere. People do direct traffic that way across the boardwalk.
I'm sorry, ma'am, just for the record, would you mind stating your name and address?
Of course, Kim Shaw Elliott, 121 9th Street.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
So that we'll put a sign and you'll get it done. Just,
Yeah, we'll talk about it in the session.
Okay.
Okay.
The next council meeting is on July 3rd, Monday, July 4th is Tuesday. I want to check if we want to keep it on that date. Consider being the holiday weekend.
Council, do you have any feedback on that?
Yeah, actually, if possible, because they talked about fourth is on Tuesday, so that Monday, if you don't have it, gives everybody before the weekend.
Everyone's in agreement with moving the council meeting to July 10th? Yes, okay, well, that's fine.
Okay.
Your recommendation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right, that's right. On the Marina dock renovation, so did we, for that type of a project, did we have a pre-bid meeting?
Yes,
How many showed up for the pre-bid meeting?
and 3 contractors.
Okay, and only one actually submitted a bid?
Yes.
Okay.
We had one that submitted, it was a sealed estimate for a total remodel, but it didn't count in our bid.
Okay.
We did get some.
All right, thanks.
Kyle, I know we're very limited on staff, public works staff, but during beach cleanup this past weekend, one of the residents, a couple of the residents addressed me about getting our beach rate more often. I don't know how often we do it now. I think I've only ever seen it once, my 10 or 9 years here. I think we do it. I think Lincoln will do it once or twice a year.
It's 3 times, or after a storm that washes around, seaweed.
Is there any way we could increase that level? I mean, I don't know what the limitations are, I don't know what personnel from our city do it, there's other people that volunteer to do it out in the fringes of our personnel manual or whatever. I'm talking about saying, we have the machinery. I mean, I guess the biggest caveat here is the dumping of waste, disposal.
Yeah, currently we drag it down to the water casing. Time. So it's an annual thing, it's in February, we apply electronically to the state. Like I said, we put in for triannually and after major storms. I have the dates that we've this year, I keep track of them. I can check with them what's required to up the frequency.
We use our personnel.
Yes. And now that we don't have very much beach, it goes pretty quickly. So it does make a
I
difference.
noticed that Saturday, the beach cleanup, now, very nice.
So yeah, let me start with the state to find out if we want to decrease. If it can be done, we'll have to do it.
I appreciate it.
So approximately how long does that task take?
Okay, so like right now, I would say a couple hours.
Okay.
Back when we had nourishment and we had a big beach, you know, it would take almost a whole day. We just had a lot more sand. We got to be down to maybe 15% of what is there.
Okay. All right.
Just a quick question, when we rate the beach, we're doing Bel Air Shores and Bel Air Beach, is that correct?
We start with Bel Air Beach, but yeah, and work down Bel Air Shore at the time.
Well, that's something we can talk about in a work session or.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you, Pat. Pat, have a report for us, please?
I just have one item that I wanted to let you know that the Planning and Zoning Board is going to meet on June 14th to review City Attorney Mora's draft sign ordinance.
Draft sign, what, I'm sorry.
The sign ordinance,
Sign ordinance.
yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome.
Okay, next we're moving on to the consent agenda, items 8 and 9 on the agenda, do I have a motion?
Motion to accept consent agenda.
Motion, a second? Any discussion? Citizens' comments? All in favor?
All right.
Consent agenda passes. Okay, moving on to the regular agenda. Item 10 is consideration of ordinance 23-03. Mr. Mora, would you like to read this ordinance, please?
Happily, Madam Vice Mayor, one moment, please. This is ordinance 23-03, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, amending the City of Bel Air Beach Comprehensive Plan pursuant to the evaluation and appraisal process of Section 163.319 Florida statutes and the amendment process of Sections 163.318 Florida statutes, adopting the goals, objectives, and policies and maps as presented herein below, providing for a copy to be kept on file, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date. This has been a reading of ordinance 23-03 on first reading by title only.
Okay, do I have a motion? Second? Any discussion?
Member Notaro motion, Member Livingstone seconded.
Thank you.
No. Oh, sorry.
Was it going to be a presentation?
Yes. So with that, we're prepared to go to staff presentation.
Good evening. We have a conflict in the report.
Can everyone turn off their mics? And I'm going to try and turn this one on.
Thank you. I'm a low talker by nature, so I appreciate this.
He's getting the mic going, and he's trying to get the speakers going.
Hello? Thank you. Good evening. It's nice to be here. My name is Linda Fisher. I work for Forward Pinellas. You probably know us best as the countywide agency that coordinates transportation planning. We also work with land use. But wearing another hat, we also provide technical assistance to local governments. In particular, we do a lot of comprehensive plan updates. So that's the hat I'm wearing today. I'm here to help you update your comp plan. Just as a reminder, the purpose of the comprehensive plan is to provide a policy basis for the regulations that the city adopts and the decisions that you make. In particular, it governs land use. The plan establishes a set of future land use categories that establish where different land uses can go in the city and how densely the land can be developed. From the state's perspective, the purpose of the comprehensive plan is to help regulate the growth of your community. But for a stable community like yours, the purpose is really to maintain the quality of life that you have. You do need to update your comp plan every 7 years to make sure that your policies are still current and to stay up to date with any changes to state law. You also have to update the maps and data that support your plan and any terminology or references that change over time. And this is also your opportunity to add or update any local policy priorities as you see fit. And there's a defined process. The draft amendments need to be reviewed by your designated local planning agency, which in your case is your Planning and Zoning Board. Your board has done that. They held a public hearing on May 8th and voted to recommend that the City Council approve the draft that's in front of you. And now it's your turn to review and consider the draft amendments. So this is the first of 2 public hearings that you're required to hold for this process. If you vote to approve the amendments, then the next step will be to transmit them to the state for review, and I'll talk more about that later in the presentation. But first, let's take a step back and talk about what's in this draft. What would be changing from your current comprehensive plan? Well, the first and most important group of amendments are to address 3 new state laws that have been passed since you last updated your plan. The first is what's called the Peril of Flood Act, passed in 2015. And it requires you to adopt strategies that address the risks of flooding, hurricanes, and sea level rise. And there's specific language that you need to adopt. So the draft amendments include a number of new objectives and policies to address the new law. However, you're a beach community, so you've been addressing these issues forever. You already do this. So it's really just a matter of spelling out what kind of strategies that you already practice. You follow state coastal construction codes and coastal setback requirements, and FEMA, floodplain management regulations. You participate in the National Flood Insurance Program, and so forth. So all I did in this draft was take the things you already do and put it in your draft plan. Another new law that was passed last year is called the Private Property Rights Act. This law is really largely symbolic. It requires you to adopt a new private property rights element in your comprehensive plan, and the statute provides a specific language addressing what people are legally allowed to do with their land. It requires you to respect judicially acknowledged and constitutionally protected private property rights. In other words, it's acknowledging rights that already exist. It's not creating new rights. Those existing rights state that the government cannot take a person's land and that a property owner has the right to use and control their land, but it is subject to state law and local ordinances. And that includes your comprehensive plan and your zoning code. So it's also acknowledging your right as a city to practice reasonable land regulation. The last of the new laws is one that doesn't have an immediate impact on the city, but I included it for due diligence in case it should apply in the future. It's called the Live Local Act, and it was just signed back in March. It allows certain affordable housing developments to override some local comprehensive plan and zoning regulations. It only applies to land zoned for commercial, industrial, and mixed use, which you don't currently have in the city. But I drafted a policy that just acknowledges that the law exists. That way, if your land designations should change in the future, or if the state law changes in a way to make it apply to the city, then you're not in conflict. As noted on the slide, I do need to correct the statutory reference in the policy. I inadvertently referenced an identical statute that applies to counties, so I just need to update that to the one that governs cities. Do you have any questions so far about these three laws? Thank you. So those are the minimum policy amendments that need to be included in your plan. Now, your Planning and Zoning Board held a series of meetings between January and May to review the draft plan. And I want to commend your board for being very engaged and thoughtful throughout the entire process. Not every city has that, so they were a pleasure to work with. They did a technical review of the draft plan, and they also voted to make some recommendations to you for updated policy priorities. The highest priority issue that they identified is the high volume of traffic that passes through the city due to higher density redevelopment and tourism from your neighboring communities. While that's not a problem that we can solve with a comprehensive plan update, this is your place to identify actions that you could take that might help. And that includes things like using the Forward Pinellas Forum to work directly with those other local governments in Pinellas County. For example, you could explore whether there are options for traffic control measures, either technological or law enforcement, that could make it easier for your residents to exit from their local streets onto the boulevard. And it would also be a means to seek funding to pay for those measures. We also talked about making sure Forward Pinellas has accurate data that takes into account that your rush hour patterns are different from the mainland. Yours are driven by tourism, not 9 to 5 commuters. And we can't use the same one-size-fits-all approach that we use for the rest of the county. The board recommends that the city consider designating a specific representative or even a committee to reach out and work with Forward Pinellas to work toward addressing these issues. The next issue that the board identified was the importance of the Bel Air Beach Marina. Your current plan has a policy providing for the potential redevelopment of the marina with residential uses in the future. And the board recommends deleting that policy and replacing it with others that recognize the marina's importance to the city. To declare that the city desires to keep the marina as a marina and to prioritize it as much as possible for the enjoyment of city residents. And then the last major group of recommended policy additions concerns cost savings and additional funding sources through things like seeking grants, state and local transportation funding, and even potentially the use of renewable resources, like solar panels. So those are the Planning and Zoning Board recommendations. So now it is the council's decision whether to accept those recommendations or to make any further changes to the draft amendments. If you vote to approve the draft at this first hearing, then two things happen next. The document will need to be transmitted to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, which is the state agency charged with reviewing comp plan amendments. And copies will need to be sent to a number of other state and regional agencies and the local governments that are immediately adjacent to you, who will all have the option to weigh in. My experience is that virtually none of those people will actually weigh in, but they have 30 days to do it. And then overlapping that same time period, DEO has 60 days to review the plan. Once they are done with their review, they will issue what's called an objections, recommendations, and comments report, or WORK report. And if they feel that anything that you've proposed doesn't meet state law or needs a technical review, then they'll let you know. Typically, we get one or two very minor comments just wanting us to update citations or clarify something. So that's usually not an ordeal. The city has 180 days to respond to the work. Again, I don't think it will take that long. Once you make changes, then you hold a second public hearing to officially adopt the updated comprehensive plan. It goes back to DEO. They have another 45 days to review. And unless there is a citizen challenge, then it becomes effective as soon as they issue their notice that they found it compliant. So there is a built-in process where citizens can challenge your comp plan update, but I've been doing this for 25 years and I have literally never seen it happen. So I don't think that's a big risk. And that is your comprehensive plan update process. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Council, any questions?
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Are there any citizens' comments? Citizens have any questions or comments? Okay, Patty, do we need to do a roll call vote on this?
Yes. Ready?
Yes, please.
Councilmember Bankard,
Yes.
Councilmember Livingstone,
Yes.
Councilmember Notaro, Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Zabel,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Shirley.
Aye. Okay. Ordinance 23-03 passes. Moving on to item 11, consideration of resolution 2023-03. Attorney Moore, would you like to read that, please?
23-03 was just read.
2023-03. It's a resolution.
Okay, sorry, the resolution. Sorry, the materials. Apologies.
Same number.
Resolution 2023-03, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, authorizing the city to switch financial institutions, authorizing signatures which are to appear for all city check and draft writing, and instructing any financial institution to accept any certified copy of this resolution as evidence of legal authority over city financial accounts, resolving conflicts herewith and establishing an effective date. This is the first and only reading of Resolution 2023-03 by title only.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Ms. Santero. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Zabel. Any discussion? Anything from the citizens? Anyone like to speak on this? Back to council? Okay, nothing further, then all in favor? Aye.
Vice Mayor, can I get a roll call vote on this?
Roll call on that? Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Bankard,
Yes.
Councilmember Livingstone,
Yes.
Councilmember Notaro, Councilmember Roberts,
Aye.
Councilmember Zabel,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Shirley.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 12, consideration of appointment to the Planning and Zoning Board. We also have an application from Kim Shaw Elliott. Ms. Elliott, would you like to speak to council?
I hadn't planned on it, but I would be honored to be able to serve on this committee. I'm an attorney by background, so hopefully I can bring some skills to this organization, as well as the fact that I have served on similar committees in my prior home, and I'm looking for opportunities to be of better service to this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your help. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I think we're fortunate to get her.
I would agree.
Job.
I would agree. Very impressive resume. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. Okay, item 13, consideration to approve the Adopt a Park program agreement for the city of Bel Air Beach. This is in association with the Bel Air Beach Community Foundation, and Mr. Riefler is going to give a presentation on this, but do we have a motion to move forward?
Motion.
Okay, second? Thank you. Kyle?
So this is an agreement to enable beautification programs within the city, and it was worked out with the Bel Air Beach Community Foundation, and the agreement allows for businesses, churches, schools, neighborhood, civic groups, or even just individual residents to give back to community parks by donating amenities, planting plants, kind of lays out timetables based on what the individual or group is donating. city. So as they come in, we'll assess them and find out if it's something that's doable and how we'll do the program. The Bellard Beach Community Foundation, the donations, monetary donations, they also have real benefit come up with, say if you want a bench, what the price of that bench would be. But it goes through the foundation to enable the donator to kind of a taxable write-off. So that's how the working function with them. The city, once the park is adopted by a group of individuals, the city would put up a sign saying there's a beautification program adopted by such and such for this period of time. We continue to talk about responsibilities of the city and responsibilities of the adopting parties. Things are continuing to do things that the city does as far as mowing, trimming of trees, anything, collecting garbage, all the neat things that we should be doing on a routine basis. And then the adopting party, depending on what they decide to do, will contribute funds. They'll, if they want to put together a day that declare a garden bed area that puts some plants and we work with them. And then light work if they want to maintain so put a garden bed in. They want to stop by on a routine basis to make sure it's free. But the idea is, again, to just allow the community to help improve parks throughout the city, provide mechanism for it. And we brought this to the Park Recreation Advisory Board, and they're in support of it. The problem is we're going to enhance the parks. And we reviewed by our city attorney, Mr. Law.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. Council, any questions?
That's good. Great.
Any resident questions? No? Okay. So with no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. There you go, Kyle. Thank you. All right, item 14, any unfinished business? Okay, city council comments. Leslie, we'll start with you and just run down the line. Nothing?
Just want to thank Kimberly, Shaw, Billy, and appreciate your service.
Last month I was discussing about flood insurance problems and wind insurance, and I was put on the flood mitigation board. I attended my first meeting this past month. It was mostly about flood risks, getting information out to surrounding communities that are involved, a portion of the surge, what surge is and how it occurs, where it starts, and the risk of flood, and flood insurance companies leaving the state. I've also been in contact, as I noted, with Senator Scott's office since late last year regarding FEMA 2.0. I was under the impression that EM was going to impact this area, even though it did impact this area with flood costs, which it is. Just got notified today that another private insurer, flood risk, is leaving the state. So they're all telling us to go to NFIP. Senator Scott is trying to introduce legislation this month to get more private insurers back into the market. Our state senators did the same thing last December with wind insurance, which cost nothing but a mess. These problems really aren't that hard to resolve. Back in 1900, there was a town a little bit west of us, Galveston, that experienced a Cat 5 hurricane. Wiped out the whole town. Well, 2 years later, they built a 3-mile seawall, extended it over the years to 10 miles. Now, that seawall goes from anywhere from, I think, 15 feet to 5 feet. I'm not saying we need a 17-foot seawall, but we should be investing our money because Ian cost the federal government $4 billion just for that one storm. So I went to Senator Scott and said, why don't we take that money and invested in storm drainage, catch basins, pumps, seawalls. Instead of just pumping out money to repair these homes that get washed away every year or whatever like that. Well, I don't know if that would resonate to the taxpayers, but we can just keep spending cash foolishly, in my opinion. That isn't going to prevent anything. So sadly today, I was finally given information because I've been after this 2.0. Just give my constituents, your constituents, Mr. Scott, some explanation on where the city discount of 20% we receive, along with somebody submitting an elevation certificate and the adjacent grade. Now, adjacent grade is the bottom grade of the ground. Okay, so your street is generally the adjacent grade. Take a shovel in your yard, dig down, you'll find sand about a foot down. Okay, so that dirt wasn't here originally. It came in when they built the houses, so you got grass and everything like that. Anyway, no one can show me where there's adjacent grade discounts. So now I was given a lay aside, but I was told to fill out a form, what was it called? This is just more, I can see why Chief Davison gets so upset with the government. It was a form so I can Privacy Act consent form. So I feel like I'm just going back around in this merry-go-round circle while, I guess the right word is while the residents here can speak. But the other thing I wanted to mention was I visited Morgan Park Saturday, Memorial Day weekend, and Sunday. And I know we got a lot of flack about raising the rates. There was one parking spot open from 11 o'clock.
Thank you. Mr. Jacob?
Nothing.
Okay, nothing from me either, but thank you all for coming out and joining us for the meeting tonight, and have a good week. Do I have a motion to close?
Motion.
Second?
You did a good job.
All in favor?
Aye.